Vice Chairman, you're ready to begin.
Okay, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. It's exactly 7 p.m. on January 7th, and we are at the 215 Comanche Street Board of County Commission hearing room. As usual, we will start off all of our Planning Commission meetings with a prayer and a Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise. Heavenly Father, as we gather today for this Planning Commission meeting, we humbly ask for your guidance and wisdom in our deliberations. Grant us discernment to see the needs of our community clearly and the foresight to make the decisions and promote responsible development while honoring the character of our county. May our discussions be respectful, thoughtful, and focused on the greater good. Help us to listen attentively to all other perspectives, weigh options with fairness, and ultimately choose what is best for the future of our community. We thank you for your presence with us today and ask you for your blessing for the work today. Thank you and amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, can we go ahead and get the roll call, please?
Danny Wilcox. Danny Wilcox, absent. Kevin Kirkwood.
Present.
Van Sands. Dee Dee Schott-Grace. Robert Politic. John Gresham. John Waller. John Waller, absent. Vice Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Real quick, for those in the room and for those at the desk, please make sure you turn off your cell phones. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Planning Commissioners, I'm Mark Dettenreiter, Director of Community and Economic Development. On the 18th of December, the Board of County Commissioners heard the Christmas in the Sticks case, as well as the regulation updates that you had previously heard and provided a recommendation on. Both of those were approved by the board. The Board of County Commissioners will be conducting their annual organizational meeting. That's going to be in a few weeks on January 22nd of this month. This will be the first meeting with the two incoming Board of County Commissioners seated, Mr. Mike Buck and Mr. Byron McDaniel. They will actually be sworn in on January 14, 2025. At the organizational BOCC meeting that's conducted on the 22nd, the board will be either reappointing or appointing two planning commissioners, John Waller and Danny Wilcox's seats. They both have terms expiring. Additionally, the Planning Commission will need to elect a chair and a vice chair for this year. This should happen at the first regularly scheduled public hearing for the Planning Commission following that Board of County Commissioners organizational meeting on the 22nd. So therefore, the election of officers for you all, for the Planning Commission, that would more than likely take place on Tuesday, February 4th, since that is in fact the first meeting after that BOCC organizational meeting where we do have agenda items planned at this time. One other item to report, a work session with the Board of County Commissioners and the Planning Commission is being looked at for a date in the coming months. And this will be an opportunity for you all to sit down with the board, two new county commissioners. This will be a venue where they can share with you their philosophies, their expectations, priorities, and of course, an opportunity for you all as well to ask questions of them. So please stay tuned for that. And those are my updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. So we don't have any consent agenda items, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Fantastic. So we will go through the process where we will ask for citizens' comments for any, well, Do we have any citizens' comments on any matter that's not being discussed tonight? Seeing none. We have two meeting minutes, December 3rd and December 17th. Did the board or the Planning Commission have a chance to look at those? Any comments on December 3rd? Any comments on December 17th? So,
Pardon me, Commissioner, could you repeat that with your microphone on? Thank you.
your mic.
And December 17th.
Did we get a second on the first one? I need to do them separately, please.
What?
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. How about December 17th?
I make a motion that we approved the minutes from December 17th.
Do you have a second? Second. All approved?
Aye.
Any against?
I'm sorry.
So, motion's approved unanimously. So very quickly, we're going to be holding a public hearing process. This board, this planning commission is a quasi-judicial function, and that's a bit of a tongue twister for me, but what that means is we are going to look at what's presented, the cases that are presented to us today, and we'll be judging them against the rules and regulations of the county and general compliance with the comprehensive plan for the county. So those are the criteria for us to evaluate these. We'll open up the public hearing on the process. The staff will present. The applicant will speak, and then we'll take public comment, public testimony. That being said, let's go ahead and open the public hearing on Richard Land's composting, case number SUR 2023-1558.
Right, good evening, planning commissioners and Elbert County. Tonight I will be presenting Richard Land's composting. It's a special use by review. The case number is SUR-2023-1558. A brief summary on this one. It's located at 15585 County Road 166 in Kiowa. The site size is 39.25 acres. The current zoning is agriculture, and this request will be for a Class 2 composting facility that will receive agricultural waste. Jonathan Wetston of Richard Land's Composting is the applicant here today. Here's an overview. It's kind of hard to see there, but it's in the northwest area of the county. They're kind of between Kiowa-Bennett Road and Comanche Creek Road on County Road 166. And again, the address is 15585 County Road 166, Kiowa, Colorado. The owner of this property is Robert Stoner. Here's a look at the zoning map of the area. As you can see, this is a very agricultural area in the county. To the north, you have agriculture with a 40-acre property and a residence. And next to that, that's kind of catty corner there to the north and northeast. And then there to the northwest, you have Harmony Land and Cattle Property. That's a 1,075-acre property. To the south, you have a large agricultural property, ranch lands, about 2,080-acre parcel with 13 outbuildings and a residence there. To the east, you have an agricultural property that's 39 acres, and to the west, a 40-acre, at the moment, vacant property. Here is an aerial of the property, pretty far out. You can see the property here highlighted in blue. Here's the next look, kind of a street view of the property. So getting into some more project summary and details. This will be for a Class 2 composting facility. That means that the waste to be composted include some of the following: large animal, livestock manure, bedding materials, straw bales, hay bales, woody waste, yard waste, agricultural plant waste, and other type 1 vegetable waste. Composting is a practice that helps manage organic waste and produces a resource for the community to increase crop yields. Obviously, I think we all are familiar with compost. So the Engineering, Design, and Operations Plan, shorthand is EDOP, meets the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment standards. Moving on a little bit more, in the details here, there's 8 acres approximately here for compost work area. Then there's an additional storage area for green waste and finished compost. And this engineering, design, and operations guide will serve as the development guide. Some things that were heavily emphasized in the plans include odor control. So capping materials will act as a filter for the compost and will consist of finished unscreened compost and other carbon-based materials such as wood chips or woody materials, or a combination of these. Another additive may be biochar, which would be a treatment for odor control, and that may be necessary for immediate odor control. This composting facility, at the moment, there's 2 different designs, one with windrows and one with an aerated static pile. And all windrows will be covered with a fabric during the initial thermophilic phase to protect against weathering, odor, and dust. If excessive odors are detected, the operator will locate the source and take appropriate steps to eliminate them. Remediation activities will consist of aeration, additional capping of materials, application of deodorizing materials at the source, possibly removal of materials from the site, and the use of biofiltration. Here's a look at a compost facility, kind of to get the idea of what something like this would look like. Those large piles are the windrows. Other important control, pollution control, includes noise, light, and water pollution. So this will have 3 monitoring wells with quarterly sampling per CDPHE. Noise from heavy equipment and processing will occur during normal business hours only. The site generally will be operational between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. with later operations in the summer. And they will not cause light pollution. Here's a look at the site plan. This is kind of hard to see, so I'll zoom in and show a little bit more of that in the future. A little bit about the background and history for this. So this particular site had a pre-application meeting back in June 9th of 2022 with a community meeting shortly after that. The formal application was accepted at the beginning of this year. It was a lot of materials to compile for that. It had several review cycles, with the most recent review cycle wrapping up in September. CDPHE had a backlog of these facilities and took longer than we anticipated to review, so that was part of the reason for the delay. And then our book schedule during the winter months slowed down the scheduling for this. All noticing complied with Elbert County zoning regulations, 14-day advance notice with a posting in Ranchland News December 19th, an on-site sign posting December 18th, and quarter-mile radius mailing December 18th. The hearings had to be noticed a second time due to an error in the initial newspaper publication that stated the hearing date would be December 7th instead of December 17th. Because of the error, which was on our staff side, the Planning Commission hearing was moved to today, January 7th. So for project review, here are some of the agencies responding, and all comments have been addressed. The main comments taking a special more time for review and revision included engineering comments from Kimley Horn and Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment comments for the EDOP. During the community meeting, there were several residents who opposed. Major concerns from residents at the community meeting included noise, odor, traffic, dust, impact on property values, and future development potential in the area. 3 comments in opposition were received in the lead up to this meeting. All right, so for approval criteria, Elbert County Planning Commission is to consider these 8 items from Article 3, Section E5. The first is the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. This composting facility use will be in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area. The properties surrounding this SUR are primarily large ranching properties with other 40-acre agricultural properties in the area. This area is zoned for agriculture, and this special use supports agriculture. This, again, is an agricultural area of the county. B, the use will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. Richer lands will be accessed from an entrance built to commercial standards from County Road 166. The applicants also provided a traffic letter produced by an engineer that indicates the use will not disrupt traffic in the area, with about 54 trips to the facility per day expected. Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment reviewed the plans, and the engineering design and operations plan was approved by the environmental protection specialist with CDPHE. The use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Our Road and Bridge Department reviewed the application materials. Road and Bridge will require a commercial entrance from County Road 166 and had no issues with this facility. D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. Foul or noxious odors and groundwater pollution are the main concerns with this facility, but this facility aims to limit odors through capping of materials and aeration techniques. The manure should be processed quickly. If so, the design of the aerated bed should limit foul odors as well. Another pollution concern is groundwater contamination. This facility is designed with 18 inches of compacted clay to minimize groundwater contamination potential, and the site is graded to convey contact water to the surface impoundment area. The compost facility has been designed in accordance with the Colorado solid waste regulations. E, all sanitation requirements will be met. Elbert County Public Health reviewed the application. The applicant will be required to apply for a septic system through Elbert County Public Health if they build a permanent office on site. But the plan right now is to have a portable toilet which will be serviced generally to serve the employees. F, the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. This facility is designed to maximize the distance from neighbors to the processing area. The composting and feedstock processing area is approximately 120 to 130 feet from the east property and west property boundaries, respectively, and about 600 feet from the southern property boundary and about 1,000 feet from the northern property boundary. This will provide an adequate buffer to the property line. Fence is going to be installed around the perimeter, which will provide a physical barrier to prevent any off-site migration of debris. G, the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This use will not be detrimental to Elbert County residents. The Kiowa Fire Protection District has reviewed the application and has determined that all requirements have been met. Additionally, the applicant has detailed plans and procedures to minimize pollution and foul odors. The applicant has extensive knowledge of composting best practices and responded to all comments during the 9-month-long referral period that required revisions to the plan. Supplemental standards are met for specific uses as applicable. H, no supplemental standards apply to this application. Based on the review of approval criteria found in Elbert County Zoning Regulations Article 3E5 and the findings in the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions for the Richard Land special use by review. We find it is in general conformance with the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. It is generally compatible with existing and allowable land uses in the surrounding area. It will not have an undue burden on available infrastructure. It will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. It will not cause significant forms of pollution. It will meet all sanitation requirements. It will be buffered. It will not result in significant impact to the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and landowners of the surrounding area, and it will conform to supplemental standards. The recommended conditions, the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing signs within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The SUR will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the SUR exhibit is recorded. Recordation of all appropriate documentation is to occur within 180 days of BOCC approval. 4, the applicant will provide CDPHE the final permitting documents and an approval email of the SUR for their records. And finally, number 5, Richard Lands will obtain a well permit prior to drilling a well into the non-tributary Arapahoe Aquifer. The total water rights for this property are about 1,270 acre feet. And if so, the Division of Water Resources has no issues. 1,270 acres equates to about 4.23 acre feet per year. Current demand for the facility is about 1.9 acre feet annually. That does not include the reuse of water captured by the impoundment pond. That concludes the Richard Lands presentation. Thank you. And I'll set up the presentation for the applicant here momentarily.
Fantastic. Applicant, would you like to stand up and is the light green on the microphone in front of you?
It is.
Awesome.
All right, good evening. My name is Jonathan Wetstein, part owner with Richard Lands Compost and also Colorado Manure Hauling. I'm going to get this ready. I'm just going to take you through a quick run-through of some of the topics or what we do. And there have also been some small changes not necessarily in the design of the facility or the composting pad, but in some of the operational aspects. And I think it's going to be for the better. So Richardlands Compost seeks to serve Elbert County and surrounding counties as a premier Class 2 composter, as well as supporting the local equine community. That last sentence, the equine community, that's really why we started with Colorado Manure Hauling. We purchased that business from a local resident, Jim Pearson, and me and my father have grown it to about 4 trucks and 600 clients, not just in Elbert County, but surrounding El Paso, Douglas, and Arapahoe. And we quickly found out that there was really nowhere to take this that would be economical for our clients. So next slide, please. Class 2 feedstocks examples. Danny hit on that. Large animal manures, bedding, straw hay bales, woody waste, yard waste, agricultural plant cullings, and waste. So there is no food waste, there is no biosolids, there is no wastewater. We're not approved for that. That EDOP that Danny mentioned is our Bible. According to the CDPHE, I have to have those on site all the time. Anybody who's managing that facility other than myself needs to know that. They need to know how to capture and stop illegal dumping or contaminated loads that come into the operation. So everybody has to be trained on what to look for, and not just when they're coming through a weigh scale, also when they're dumping, to be visually aware of what's going on with the facility. That's also the first step in any odor control, is once these processes start, you can't just leave it, stop, and wait for the next day. Next slide. So just a quick rundown. Composting is a result of controlled biological decomposition of biodegradable materials that use aerobic processes. That's via the U.S. Composting Council's definition. And we are following proven methods that will reduce the risk of smells and environmental impacts. Next slide. The regulating authorities over us, Colorado Department of Health, their stormwater division, which we will have a stormwater management plan that has to be regularly inspected, it has to be recorded, and it has to be turned in to the stormwater division annually. That will be either myself or other management teams on the property. They have to know how to fix stormwater diversion berms. We have to teach operators not to drive over things. You know, you can't just make a bridge here and go across because it makes sense. So they have to be very sensitive of the controls that we have for contact water that will actually hit any of the raw manure or even the compost itself. That all gets contained into a detention pond and tested, and it can be reused in the process. And then as well as the clean water that is diverted on and downstream. Elbert County obviously is one of the regulating authorities, and the EPA. All that stormwater reports, we do have to capture water from that pond, and I'm assuming it will have to be tested for heavy metals, fecal coliform, and salmonella to make sure we're not putting something back into our piles that will increase any risk in our finished product going out the door. And those are recorded via what's called the net DMR system through stormwater. Basically what the EPA did is they set up what was told me it's like a shopping mall, and every state has a store in this mall. So when I report to Colorado's stormwater, it goes straight into the EPA's attention. So there isn't a lag time. They don't have to be alerted to something and go find out. Everybody knows if we mess up, which is best case. I need to know before we get to that point as well. And then we can make the appropriate changes. Next slide, please. Composting. So this is something that gets a lot of different thoughts. How does it happen? What's going on? The standard is using a correct carbon to nitrogen ratio, oxygen and moisture. Those are the 3 main ingredients of making a successful pile. And once you get those together, it's going to achieve microbial action. That is working on the decomposition of the material. And then that in turn generates heat. That heat kills off weed seeds, harmful pathogens, and even some animal medications. Ivermectin is a big one in the horse community, and we've had really no downfall from that. The composting process achieves a good level of neutralization of that. What happens with the heat? So we need to achieve above 131 degrees. That's according to the CDPHE. We do have to record those temps. We basically have to cook this to the accepted temperatures. Sometimes you can get up as high as 150, 170 degrees. At that point, you have to make a decision of what's going on. What we are planning to do is use it's a wireless temperature probe that is tied to a cloud-based logging system. So it will be 24/7 temperature monitoring. I can have alerts on my phone. My management team can have alerts on their phone. So if we do have something that's running away, we can handle it before it gets to an issue. And just for kind of context, some of the food processing and biosolids processing, they're fine with 170 degrees and don't deal with fire issues because they're constantly monitoring it. Am I getting feedback here? Sorry. We don't need to get that high that we've seen. We've had lab testing already for previous material for the salmonella, the fecal coliform, and the heavy metals in a temporary facility that we ran before this. So we feel like we're confident. We're confident we can achieve it, and we can achieve a really good product. Our product has already been used commercially. It has hit some hobby gardens and some market gardens around Elbert County, and it's been used with good success. Next slide. So the process again, so we're blending it. We want that carbon to nitrogen ratio, which just for reference is a 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. And we want to get it up to about 50%. That moisture is what provides the microbial activity. It makes a moisture barrier around the organic material, and that's where everything lives. And it just munches down on the organic material, breaking it into a more stable finished product. Then after it's blended, it's moved to the aeration system. And then after that, when the required temps are hit, then it'll move into a curing pile. That curing pile doesn't need aeration. It's basically just becoming more and more stable. The temperatures are cooling down. There's no more activity. The way we could double check that it's ready for curing, even though we hit all these temps and we monitor it and we move it to curing, we've added oxygen when we move it and we make this new pile. Sometimes you can see that heat pop back up. So curing piles can be monitored weekly. They're not really on a daily basis. But again, with staff training and the right management team, they'll know that they can't just turn a blind eye to that pile. Same goes for the receiving feedstock. If we do have a backstock of feedstock that's sitting there, we can train our team to know that, hey, we need to check those temperatures, make sure nothing's happening over here while you're working on something else. So every step of the way, temperatures are a big thing. We like to monitor that because we do deal with a lot of dry carbon material. You can achieve composting at 38% moisture, but then you get very dangerous, basically like a hay bale fire. If you got too much moisture in the hay or the straw in the center of it, and it gets enough air in there and it starts to composting, it gets really hot, and then it hits the drier material on the edges of that kind of thermophilic zone, and that's when you can start seeing smoldering. So next slide. This is an example of the positive aeration. Basically, there's a supply fan, and it's going to feed into lateral pipes that run under the pile. Our feedstocks are already blended. They're piled. There are concrete barriers in this example. We can build a bay system, or we can do what they call is a mass bed system, where basically we're building a pile, and we're just layering on that pile as we go. And every 4 feet, there will be a lateral pipe underneath it that the blower is supplying the air up into the product. The bio layer on this example can be finished compost, 3 to 6 inch layers, or it can be wood chips. And it's been shown in many different examples nationwide that it is adequate in scrubbing some of the foul odors that may escape that pile. Now, hopefully what happens is the supply fan is moving at a rate that the CFMs are all controlled. We're not going for a high velocity, so what we get, we call it stove piping. You'll just see little vents start cracking, and you'll actually see some of the steam coming out. That's not what we want. We want to capture that and have a nice, soft, gradual oxygenation of the pile. Next slide. This is an example of a pile that I built. This is not the material that we'll be using. This was just some pipes that we found, and we wanted to practice with this. Those are 80 feet long. The laterals are every 4 feet, And you can have about as high as 12 feet is an acceptable height before gravity starts to compact that pile and you lose your porosity for the air to move through the pile. That porosity as well is important, so when we talked about going to higher temps, if we notice something getting too high, we can turn that fan on a little bit longer, and we can help cool down that pile. And I've talked to a lot of industry experts on this. No, it doesn't work like a rocket stove, because that velocity is very low, where if you had high temps and you really pumped air through there, then boom, you've got a spark. That's a common issue with a lot of wood processors that have huge, massive piles of wood. It rains, moisture gets trapped in there for weeks, months, and a loader comes along and scoops the outside of it, blasts a lot of air through there, and then you got a fire. So this is a very passive, very slow, consistent oxygen process through there. The straw on the bottom is what's called a plenium layer. It just helps material not to plug up the holes that are in the pipes. And next slide. Okay, so our controls and safety, we'll go over that again. Temperature is recorded via a wireless probe. It's in a cloud-based system, so it's constantly telling me the temperatures. One, that helps with safety, but two, it also helps with my required temperatures I have to hit for the CDPHE to make sure we have a safe and stable product and everything has been sterilized to a point. Temperatures taken off any feedstock piles weekly, so that was the incoming material. The biggest one is training of employees on proper methods of composting and safety. We can get a lot of good operators around here that run equipment. I don't have anything unique, but training on what to look for. I know a lot of people around here are used to manure, so it's not, strange to them, but the action and the process of getting that composting, cooking, controlling that temp all the way through to curing is something that is new to a lot of people around here. Daily house cleaning and maintenance of equipment is a must. Greasing of equipment, we don't want any hot spots, we don't want any sparks. When we clean up the ground, basically we have less contamination of rainwater. It's going to pick up less particulates and run off into that pond. Water is constantly available for dust mitigation on roadways and fire suppression if needed. We do have the pond that can be used. It would not be my first choice in case it hasn't been tested yet for heavy metals. We do have a 6,000 gallon stainless steel tank on the site that will be fed by the well. We've talked with the fire department. We're very open to, if a neighbor's place is burning or they need water, we're open to it. And obviously they'll have access to the property during off hours in case they need to get in there in case something happens. Clear process of reporting of incidents and communication with local fire authorities. We have to have a very clear system for our employees to report anything, whether it's contamination, mechanical issues, injuries for OSHA requirements, but also fires are a big issue, and we're hoping to see none. In our temporary facility, we really had no smoldering. We did get some high temps, but at that point, we used our windrow turner, went through this pile with a water tank, and we're able to knock down any temps where we were starting to feel uncomfortable with where it was going. Gated and locked facility after hours to prevent illegal dumping. That's mandatory for CDPHE, and also just for nefarious actors that want to get rid of something that costs too much money, like TVs or electric car batteries or whatever, could randomly show up at all hours. A mandatory testing of finished products, so this is the safety side of the finished compost via CDPHE and USDA requirements. So they mandate a large test every 10,000 cubic yards of material. And the large test is your heavy metals, your nickel, your mercuries, leads, and the salmonella and fecal coliform. We like to think we're going to do more testing than that, just to stay up, and we do have some customers that may demand that. They want to know they're getting a quality product. They want to have assurances. We don't have any problem with that. And then groundwater testing. We already have 3 groundwater monitoring wells out there. We basically put 1 upstream and 2 downstream and went until we hit water. So that's to protect any of that surface water or the groundwater that would be impacted first. We do have to do background testing before we even get started to start getting a historical data. And then according to the CDPHE, we'll be going quarterly testing. And from there, if we show that we're being consistent, it may back off to either biannually or just annually testing. It all just determines on how well we do our job. That testing will be handled by a third party. It's very expensive and very intense. My training is not up to that level yet. There's a lot of different equipment involved in that. It's more intensive than I thought. So that can be contracted out. Our engineers actually provide that service, and there's 2 other or 3 other companies within our area that are certified to test the groundwater. So it's very important to know what we're doing to the environment to make sure we're not making any impacts and damaging the health and safety of any resident, whether it's immediate boundary or farther downstream that we may not see. So next slide. Some of the equipment we have, front-end loaders everybody's pretty familiar with, skidsters. Top right is a wood grinder. It may not be that exact one, because with this facility we can take in woody waste that would need to be ground down to an appropriate size for composting or a possible mulch. The bottom right is a screener. It's an orbital screener. It's kind of a newer little system that's neat. We've been talking to these guys. Obviously, if it doesn't meet our needs, there's different screeners out there that may work for us. But that's just an example of some of the equipment that's used. The screener and the grinder on these machines, it's not good to run them every day unless you run them all day. The way they're designed and they're built, you can't turn them on for just half an hour and start grinding away. So there is a certain stockpile that builds up. If you have woody waste that you plan on mulching or putting into the compost pile, that will have a certain area where it will be stockpiled. The curing pile for compost, we talked about that. The temperature is monitored. When we feel like it's at a very sellable product, which for different applications, it can be at different levels of maturity in compost. And then that screener could run for 3 times a month, but it's going to run all day. It's going to achieve its mission, and then it'll be done. Same with the grinder up top. Once it achieves going through that feedstock, then it's done. Next slide. This is just an example of Colorado manure hauling trucks. It's 750, 33 GVW, 18-yard capacity. These are the majority of the trucks that will be coming into our facility in the beginning. We do have 2 subcontractors. They were included in that traffic letter when we did that study. This is the primary way that we'll be receiving most of our manures. We will probably be open to the public. We have talked about whether we wait a year, get the correct training of the staff, really slow down the incoming feedstock, not just throw open the doors and invite everybody in. Because we want the public to know as well that we're trying to get everybody trained, get a good staff base, which is kind of hard right now, finding the right employees, but I think we can, and we really want to hire inside this county. And this is also the way that we deliver compost right now. So we do clean out the trucks, and then we could backhaul out compost. That will more than likely increase. We may start seeing tractor trailers. At what level, I am not sure of yet. It just depends on what commercial contracts we achieve and where the business heads into the future. And obviously that may incur a new traffic study by Road and Bridge to just make sure the impact levels are being monitored, and that's fine. We understand that. Next slide. So this is just an example of our temporary facility. Those are 300-foot long windrows. They average about 11 to 12 feet wide. And this is the windrow system. What you have to do is basically you're agitating it with a windrower, adding moisture as needed. I've got another video that'll show you that in action. And we had a maximum of 8 to 9 on this 4-acre site. So the new site will have an 8-acre composting pad. It doubles the capacity. But what we're excited about is the ASP system basically takes those windrows, and the pile for the ASP system will be that windrow in half. So we've increased what we can do on the 4 acres or even the 8 acres, and there's no windrow turner. So the agitation of the material or any particulate that may go off into the air is greatly reduced. Next slide, please. There should be a video. There you go. So this is a Aeromaster turner. Basically, we had a 3,000-gallon water tank that was pulled behind, and then it's basically self-explanatory. That auger goes through the pile, takes the bottom material, moves it to the top, gets a complete homogeneous mix, and makes sure that this is properly aerated. Now, this can only happen below 20, 22 miles an hour. We did have a cutoff. We don't want material flying off everywhere. Obviously, if I have a row that's almost done cooking and I have a new row next to it, I don't want to contaminate that other row. That's where we did use some of the covers. We weren't seeing great success with those covers, and it was very awkward and time-consuming and labor-intensive to use them. We also lose 4% moisture every time we turn. It's Colorado. It's just what happens. It takes about 6,000 gallons to get one of these rows started at that 40-50% mix. And then obviously when you turn it, you're aerating it, you're throwing a lot of steam into the air. So you have to do a light watering, about 1,500 gallons every time you do the turning. We also do moisture testing to make sure that it indeed is what we need. We don't just go out there and say, hey, you turn, you add water. We make sure the percentages are where we need it to be. Too wet and you get anaerobic, which is the opposite of aerobic, and we start getting those foul odors. Everybody knows the grass clippings trapped inside a plastic bag that is tied and forgotten, and then you broke it open. That's methane and different other elements that don't smell good. That's what we're not doing. Next slide. And I think, Danny, were you going to highlight this map?
Yeah, so there was a slide that showed more of the operations. I don't know if you saw it in mine, but this basically has the detail with that long driveway on the bottom with the turnaround, and then that larger rectangle is the composting area. That kind of hexagonal shape there is the impoundment area, the detention pond, and then there's a finished storage area. Parking was up front there.
All right, I think, is that it? All right. And I also wanted to add in there, as far as some of the further compliance issues that you read at the end of the application there, as far as the sign turn in and the fees paid and everything like that. CDPHE also has its own requirements before we even get started. So this is not the end and then I start building. Obviously there's permitting we need to get from Elbert County, but I don't know if you guys have this letter passed around, the approval letter from the CDPHE by Jace Driver of the EDOP.
I don't know if we have that one. So.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and read this. The CDPHE, when they approved our engineered design of operations, also sent their letter with their stipulations before we're even allowed to continue.
Just out of curiosity, when did you receive that?
What's that?
When did you receive that letter?
This one is October 25th of 2024. It should have, you may have it in there, but we can definitely forward this on, and it'll be included with our EDOP or the rest of the application as we go forward in permitting.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do that. So we had 4 points. I'll read right through them so you guys have heard them. The facility will comply with the public health and environmental laws, standards, and regulations of the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and all other applicable state, federal, and local rules and ordinances. 2, the owner-operator must comply with the approved EDOP and any future department-approved EDOP conditions, including both department-approved amendments to the EDOP and department-approved standalone plans necessary to comply with the Solid Waste Act and regulations. Basically, what number 2 is saying is if I change anything anywhere on this property, I have to have it approved. Barring general maintenance, road grading, simple things like that, mowing, maintenance of the facility. Obviously, that doesn't need to be recorded. But if I were to somehow try and increase that pad size or the storage facility or the impoundment pond, or I feel like I need to shrink it up, that all has to be approved. That cannot just happen. And I have to go to the state first, and I'm sure that will go through Elbert County as well, just to make sure they know what's going on. Number 3, the CDPHE reserves the right to make unilateral modifications to the EDOP language and conditions at any time during the life of the facility, including during the post-closure care period. CDPHE will consult with the county prior to doing so. Number 4, the financial assurance mechanism for closure and post-closure activities must be in place and approved by the division prior to the start of operations. Please note that pursuant to the requirements of Section 4.0 of the Solid Waste Regulations, the post-closure cost estimate must be adjusted annually to account for inflation or deflation by using the implicit price deflator for the gross domestic product. Additionally, the facility must replace the original cost estimate every 5 years unless otherwise required by the division. Both the annual adjustment and the 5-year update cost estimates must be submitted to the division for review and approval. And then it goes on to if we have any questions. So really what has to happen is, 1, we'll know our cost of building the facility. 2, we have to know our cost of closing the facility. So if I die, no one takes it over, something happens, it sells, they don't want to compost, I already have to have basically money in the bank to cover this closure, and I believe there's a 5-year monitoring period. So it's pretty heavy. They want to make sure we didn't leave anything behind. I'm responsible for that monitoring. That may have to be placed into a trust or some line of credit that is assured by whoever our lender is. I can tell you right now, we're at about $1.4 million for building. So if we just say that for closing, we're going to be pretty confident we'll be a successful business if we can line up that funding and have that going forward. And we're pretty confident now that that will happen. But this is just the first step in building this facility. This is not, like I said, the last step. So we have many things to address and line up before we get going. And I believe that will do it for me.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. At this point, we'd like to open it up for public testimony. I don't know if you signed up on the sheet. I don't think anybody did. But if you'd like to speak, please step up, speak your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Before I start my 3 minutes, just so you all and you guys know, a neighbor of this is handicapped. He tried to come, but the doors are locked down there to get into, so he doesn't have to use, because he has to use the elevator. So I just wanted that to be known, that he couldn't be here because of that. Okay. My name is Beverly Durant. I live at 40968 Kiowa Bennett Road. I just want you all to be aware of that the Colorado Manure Company, the Zach trucks that were there, have been dumping manure for several months on County Road 53 in the area where there are at least 8 to 10 homes. They are between 50 to 100 piles. They're just pile after pile after pile. They are not spreading it. They're just taking a skid steer and just bulldozing it to make it not so high. It has created a very real health hazard. The flies have been absolutely awful, and those flies carry diseases. The smell has been absolutely atrocious as well for all of those homes that are right there. They're not covering anything. They're not doing anything. They're just dumping the manure. And I just wanted this planning commission to be aware of that, because I don't think that should be part of the composting, that they can, Colorado Manure Company, and those trucks can dump wherever they want. Granted, they probably have permission from the landowner, but that's not part of a composting, that you can just dump in the area and then go and move it later. So it has created a very real hazard, and this has been going on for months. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
Doesn't have anything to do with it.
So anybody else? At this point, public testimony is closed, and we'll go through a board-level discussion. First, would you like to address the comments that were made?
Yeah, no, I don't deny it. We've been dumping there. We had been approached by the homeowner, and that landowner wanted to spread manure. And this is not a super common occurrence for Colorado manure hauling. We've had people request manure. What we try and do, and obviously it's not, I think, up to us, we try and educate people. Distances from wells, different distances from surface water, horse manure. Well, horses in general only digest like a quarter of what they eat, so weed seeds pop out. We inform them, if you do not have a weed management plan, maybe this is not for you. We try and inform them of all the rules that we're aware of. I am not aware of any rule that says we cannot dump on the property. If there is, I'd like to know. We've done this on occasion, and yes, it's a lot. It's a lot. The homeowner was in charge of spreading. There's no formal contract or agreement with the homeowner. We were out there almost on a daily basis, yes, and then the homeowner across the street thought it was such a great idea, he wanted some. So now he has some. As far as flies and smells, I may be jaded. I haven't really ran into it. Obviously, in the wintertime, we're not going to get as much. The gentleman does have a large parcel of property, and I don't know his relationship with the neighbors. But no, this isn't something, we're not trying to be nefarious or cover this up. That is not how composting is done. That is not how it will be done. That is basically dumping, and he wants to spread on his property. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure, we're all open and clear about what's going on. So that's the only comment I have.
Great, thank you. At this point, board-only discussion. Van, any questions, comments?
Yeah,
concerns?
just a couple of things. Now, you don't have any facility out there.
Yeah, you can stand up.
You don't have any facility for people to, you've got people out there that are required to be monitoring all of this. Where do they stay? Do they just wander around? I'm a little confused there as to what they're actually doing out there.
Currently.
Yeah.
Are we talking
Well,
about?
no. When you get set up, you don't have a facility for them to sit in or relax in or anything like that. Do they just wander around and do their thing, or what? I don't understand that.
As far as like an employee office?
Well, one of the things that you have in here is you got to monitor a lot of stuff all the time.
Yes.
Okay, now do these people go out for 8 hours and that's all they do is just monitor, or what? I'm confused.
Okay, so like a day-to-day.
Yeah.
What a day-to-day would look like, yeah. So the only building structure we do have is a shed, which
Yeah.
will store some materials and probably house one person that would watch incoming loads.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they're going to watch the trucks. For the CDPHE, we did get a grant through some of their groups. We have to record volumes. So somebody will be there watching trucks, probably recording the volumes that come through. If we have the public come through, the covers on the loads will come off and we can inspect the load. So that's what that person would do.
Yeah, I understand that, okay.
I was just going to
But
go.
what are they doing when they're not doing that?
There may be a little bit of twiddling of thumbs, but what we want to do is encourage the housekeeping process. We're only talking about 2 to 3 employees to begin with, including myself.
Right.
So a lot of the beginning stages will be training. As the activity increases at the property, they will probably have more to do. The blending of the compost, the feedstock material, making sure temperatures are correct, making sure moisture is correct, and then building the ASP piles, monitoring that equipment. It's not a huge labor-intensive operation. It's not like digging a trench.
Okay, you're still not getting to my point, okay? What do they do when they're not doing that? Do they working 8 hours a day and doing all of this stuff during those 8 hours a day, or do they have a place to rest and relax You know, that's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, you know, if I go to work for somebody, I want to make sure that I get a few hours or some time to myself too.
Okay, yeah, I understand now, yes. So as long as, you know, we're gonna have toilets obviously for everybody, we planned on maybe having a open air pavilion covered, somewhere they can get out of there, you know, they're gonna have their breaks, which are required. They're gonna have their moments of downtime. So again, as well as having personal time, and they can just,
Wondering what, you know, what a day looks like, you know. It's
yeah,
8 hours of out there monitoring all of this stuff to make sure it's working.
yeah. It's gonna be a slightly new thing for us with the ASP piles, the windrow. Obviously, I managed it with myself and one other employee, and each one of those windrows took about 45 to an hour to go through. You have 8 of them, there's your day, because you're only traveling at 0.03 miles per hour to turn it. With this new system, there's gonna be some learning curves. You know, obviously, we always encourage, if you're sitting around, there's always something to clean or watch or learn. So we'll also have learning, continuing education. Colorado does mandate that you have certified operator training through the U.S. Composting Council or through SWANA, which is the group that leads landfills. So we can provide opportunities for that training on the clock, you know, and fill in there. Stormwater management practices and walking around and teaching the recording of how to inspect the berms, mowing, knocking down weeds, inspections of the ponds. And you know, there will be some downtime. It's, like I said, it's not super labor intensive.
But you don't have a place for them to go.
Not that you would consider like, here is an office building. No, it's a shed. The shed does have a little area in the front that they could go to get out of the weather if need be. Okay. We're providing waters. We do provide snacks usually. We want to make sure that they're comfortable and they're taken care of, because the last thing we want is to get a bad reputation as an employer and then no one wants to come work for us.
All right, well, that was the issue, because you've got a lot of controls and whatnot that you've got to monitor, and you got to make sure that somebody's out there watching it and looking at it, but also you can't have that 24 hours a day.
Correct.
So, you know, there's got to be some place for these people to go, and you don't have a place right now. And one of the things that you're required to do is to drill a well and put in facilities for that if you have a building there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if that's in the plan, because I haven't heard it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd like to get to a permanent office structure at some point.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that would have the septic system
Okay.
that's permitted, and that would have more lounge facilities.
Okay.
Or, you know, offices where we can provide
Sure.
job training.
Okay.
It's in our goal to get there, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that was my question, is that,
Okay, sorry.
yeah.
Any other questions? John?
How long does it take the product to be finished once it comes onto the land until it goes off? How long is that time, or does it bend?
For acceptable use, about 60 days is when it can be used. In agricultural applications like row crops, broadfield applications, you can put on a slightly less stable compost. It's usually put in, you know, 1/4 inch spread, maybe 1/2 inch is very thick, usually unheard of. If it's gonna go into, say, like a vegetable crop or a market garden, we want it more stable. So that may make it to 80, 90 days. Because organic material is always breaking down. It's consistently breaking down. The composting is just a controlled method that works with nature to get it to a point where it's safe for use and it's not going to damage crops or whatever it's going on to. And the more mature you get, the more general use applications you can have for it, like cut flowers, that kind of market garden. They're very specific. Nurseries that may use it in potting blends need a very, very stable product, maybe at the 100 days. So if we had small piles that were that old, so you could go anywhere from 60 to 100, depending on the finish application, but the fastest is 60.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, a couple questions. So I believe it was in the presentation, Danny, that you said there was going to be approximately 50-plus trucks in and out of the facility during the day?
That's correct. 54 was the estimate in the traffic letter.
And the purpose, obviously, of the trucks coming in is bringing you the raw material. And so are you typically selling in bulk, or is there any plans for packaging in the future for retail compost?
Packaging will probably be several years down the road.
Okay.
Right now, it is all wholesale. We've had some success with residences out here, since most people tend to have a little, maybe over 5-10 acres.
Right.
An 18-yard load is not unheard of for most of them that want to spread on yards or any areas around barns. They want to just increase the vegetation. And then the commercial is just going to be bulk. We have had talks and looks into packaging, but I'm not sure if the land size at its current state would facilitate that. It may. All of that would be indoor. Once it gets to a significant amount of bags, they do have mobile systems. You could basically tow behind a 1-ton pickup, drop, and fill up a 4-yard hopper and start manually bagging if you wanted to do a little bit. Holly Acres, she was excited to maybe sell some of our product bagged, but again, we have to get over the hump of building and training and making a successful product again before we really start breaking into new avenues.
Is most of your traffic probably coming in, especially with the raw material coming in off of Kiowa Bend 166?
All of it, yeah.
And your traffic study, did it determine, that's a hell of a corner there. And also I'm concerned about, I live on County Road 73, and Acme Brick, ran trucks down 73 for years. And depending upon which way the wind was blowing, even though my house is a quarter mile off of 73, I was in a dust cloud. Mm-hmm. And so are there any stipulations or comments made in the traffic study regarding dust control on 166, and especially at the intersection?
I have that up here, Danny, if you don't have it. No concerns were brought up. I think with Road and Bridge and the traffic letter, if I can find that.
My concern would be for the ranch there at the corner of 166 and Kiowa Bennett.
Well, I would agree. That would be a concern.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if we need to make a stipulation regarding dust control, especially there. I don't think there's anybody else other than your neighbors directly to the west that has a home. I'm looking. Oh no, there is somebody on the south side of 166.
Right, I believe that's open ranch land currently, directly to the south.
Not directly south. No, not directly south of your property or the property in question, but on the south side of 166, and with the prevailing, northwest winds, that place is going to get coated.
Yeah.
And at the corner of 166 and Kiowa Bennett.
Okay, I'll have to grab that traffic later. I don't have it in this stack. Currently, there wasn't any stipulations, I think, for any bond use or maintenance of the road.
Yeah, I think there should be some sort of stipulation about reviewing the impact of the truck traffic on 166. How do we address that, Danny and Mark?
For
ideas. I'm looking for ideas.
ideas would just be, watering, dust control with, watering the road for dust control, things like that would be possibilities. Obviously, hot summer days, it might not last. It dry out pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know. I didn't know if there's anything that can be done, besides maybe mag chloride or something like that, helps to settle that dust down even on a hot day, because that's when it's the worst. Been there, done that, and it's not fun. It's not fun. I mean, if someone's really close to the road there, and that amount of truck traffic, I mean, these were semis, on 73 that ran 24 a day. And, depending upon the prevailing wind, there'd be a dust cloud, hovering and floating up, even through my trees. I have lots of trees between me and 73. So, that's fairly barren out there. Anyway, that's, if we can come up with an appropriate idea as a stipulation for dust control, I think that would make you a good neighbor.
Well, no, I agree. I live on 7482, and it's, yeah. Anytime someone goes by, I just watch it for 1 minute approach my house.
Yeah.
And just wait, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, and, there's a big difference between, a car and a truck. Just by the sheer volume of the size of the tires and so on. So I'm open to ideas as to how we, create an appropriate, stipulation about control and monitoring of the dust traffic that will occur, especially during the summertime.
I think we'll get to that point when we get to the conditions.
Conditions.
Yeah. So what else do you have?
No, that was it.
I think we would be open to studies, or if we want to do something, more literally get out there and see what's going on and the time of the traffic and, how, 4 trucks every half an hour can be way different than 1 truck every 2 hours. So
True.
Come up with how often are they coming through? I'm going to have a watering truck for the property anyways to control dust on our entrance road. It'll be gravelled, so there'll be less,
Yeah.
but there's going to be a
166.
need for it. No, that whole road, we're 3.3 miles from Kiowa Bennett, or about 3
I was
miles.
just gonna say, you're almost to Comanche, aren't you?
We are, yes, I can almost see it. I mean, we're down really low. You get up, you can about see it.
Okay, that's it for me.
Thanks, Robert.
Yeah.
Edie?
Yes, I had a similar concern about it, but then my other concern is, I don't know, I am very concerned about it getting hot and catching fire and going through this county like crazy. We compost at home, and we have done a lot of, not to this degree, but we've done a lot of studying on it, and we came this close to having, an issue. So I'm sure you know a lot more than we do, but I do just want to say that I do have a concern about mitigating the fire risks, because I know it can get hot, and it can, and I've seen up north where one time they went, it just bad. So
Yeah, it's a problem we see with horse facilities that we pick up with. They think they can dump it in piles and forget it.
right,
Impact happens when you have large piles of manure.
right.
And it can be fire, it can be stormwater, it can be different things. In our EDOP, it does mandate that we have to do the housekeeping, the mowing down of the vegetation, keeping it to acceptable levels. We do want to put native vegetation around the property just to beautify it, visually, kind of cleans it up a little bit. Does trap maybe an occasional piece of trash that may go through, or dust on and off of the property. The constant temperature monitoring, I'm really excited about those. So we can always have an eye and an alert that goes off if something happens in the middle of the night. Because I can't promise that we're going to be 100% perfect. I can promise that we're going to be 100% trying, but we're human. So yeah, I agree. That is an issue, and that's where the training of employees on what to do, the fire extinguishers and all the equipment that'll handle material, what to look for is very important.
Danny, you kind of showed the setback of the
Can we pull up that?
the acreage and how it's set, where the windrows would be as compared to the edge of the property. And isn't there a buffer zone then built around those windrows?
Well, we're not doing windrows anymore.
Oh, that's right.
So we're going to be moving to ASP. So, I mean, we can still pull up that map. And hopefully we can read the dimensions. I think we're about 400 to 600 feet in its length north to south.
There it is.
I'll pull up another one so I can read it.
Thank you, that works.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, oh, good, perfect.
Stop moving.
So
It
if
can
you
be busy.
had 300-foot-long windrows, you're going to consume a lot of that pad space.
Right.
We're already at 400 feet long. Basically, that proposed aerated static system that one should be pretty close to scale.
Okay.
8 of those in a row
Right.
will process the same material as all of those windrows.
Oh, gotcha.
So we can now move more activity of the composting process directly on that pad. So we're containing our footprint onto that compacted pad, and then we have clean stormwater diversion swells running around to move clean water just downstream and not running through the composting and the manure.
Right.
Our plan is to go native vegetation. I'd like to go all the way around. I mean, that'd be a perfect world. Choke cherries, something native we can put out there. We know that after a little bit of irrigation, it can be very successful. You know, I'm not going to go out there and put silver maples. That's just stupid.
No.
Right, right.
So does that answer your question as far as buffers?
Well, and, and hopefully to answer her question and concern about, any kind of defensible space when it comes to, anything that you would get alert in the middle of the night to say, you've got some, action going on.
Correct. Danny, can we zoom a little to, I guess, to the left? There you go. So you have the proposed feedstock processing area.
Right.
That is also compacted. Sorry.
Right.
So it's not just an area that's not controlled where the raw material comes into.
And then you got your 6,000 gallon tank between the two.
Right in between the two.
operations. Yeah.
Oh, that's much better, yeah.
And then we have a roadway and then the pond. So really what would happen is if something whipped through there like wind and it took off to the north, that would be where you get into trouble. So we can look at, as we go along, obviously we're mowing around it. I don't want weed seeds getting in my product as much as possible, so it's beneficial to me to keep everything mowed down. There's no plan for a permanent irrigation system, but a temporary one to establish native shrubbery or native plants or native grasses or whatever we think is acceptable.
Drip system.
I don't think there was no landscape development plan that needed to happen, I think. We just submitted our idea of what we wanted to do.
No, but I see
Yeah.
defensible space.
Okay.
Plus the fact that they have the 6,000 gallon tank available for the fire department to latch into.
Yeah, and that one's crucial. I mean, water is a pretty important process in this to make a good product, to make it in a healthy amount of time so it doesn't drag out and then feedstock starts piling up. It is what it is. But yeah, everybody, like again, it comes down to employee training and eyes staying open. The 24-hour monitoring of pile temperatures are really just in those aerated static piles. And if I feel like we need to, we can include one that may just land into the bulk of any feedstock that is left for the next day.
Okay.
Because what they'll do is it'll build up. We want to get to about 400 yards, which isn't too hard to do for us in 2-4 days.
Yeah.
And then it's mixed and then it's started. When it's dry, it's not too bad. I think Rick Young took a drone photo, which was in our stuff. He went out there because we did dump some material out there when we were going to do a USDA facility. And in the middle of all this, we changed to a class 2. And we did that because there's more regulation over us, so we self-imposed that, and we, wanted to make the county feel better and all the residents feel better. It was more expensive, but I don't think there's a drawback to it. But anyways, yeah, they'll build there, they'll blend, they'll water, and they'll move along. Rick Young's drone photo showed 63 degrees. And that's just manure that's just sitting there. So it's one of those things, if you start actively working it, you need to commit.
Right.
If it's just piled,
Yeah.
okay.
Right,
You do it or you don't.
right.
And that's where The day-to-day operations is knowing when to cut off, when to clean, you're done mixing. Oh, you got that wet? Well, you just committed yourself to another half hour of work. Sorry, bud. Keep moving. Because you want to get it into that aeration system to where it's controlled and it's monitored. And those blowers, eventually, some of the neat technology out there is those temperature probes will talk to the blower and can increase and decrease the speed according to the temperature they record.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty neat, and it's coming down in price. It's very accessible to guys like me. You know, A1 Organics is a large composter in Eaton, and they built a system similar to ours. They went very cement. It was all paved, and they paid about $2.2 million for 4 bays. My 8-bay system, I got a quote from a company that will engineer it for $180,000. So it's composting is getting more common, it's getting more controls, and it's getting more in the public eye, which then keeps that circle going, demanding more controls. Right. So we try and stay on top of current technology.
Well, you do seem very passionate about it, and it's really the thing right now. I mean, we've been doing permaculture at our house for the last 2 years, and it really has made a difference. So I think,
Well, good.
I wish you all the luck.
Well, thank you. We teach composting clinics through the Elbert County Agricultural Alliance.
Oh, good.
In Elbert there, I teach those. Primarily because a lot of people see how much work it takes and then they won't do it. But they also understand what we're doing and they know what we know and then they get more comfortable with it. And
My
that really
chickens
has
do a lot of my work.
and that's really what has to happen is making people comfortable with this and comfortable with myself and what we do.
Any more questions? Okay, I just have a couple more myself.
Yeah.
You kept using things like can monitor temperatures on your phone. My employees can monitor. I like hearing words like will.
Okay.
So I'm not.
But we will. I just had a conversation with Rio Temp, which is a big company that makes these. They have many ways to make this financially accessible.
And it sounds like you're still deep in the process of making decisions about what you're going to purchase in terms of, foundational equipment to get to a full composting. You mentioned the A1 a minute ago. You mentioned a half a dozen other things that you're exploring. And so when you hit that EDOP, you think you will be pretty well standardized?
Yes, sorry. We are going to have a blower. We are going to have the laterals. We are going to have the ASP system. We have a plan for capping material when we first start because I won't have any compost. Douglas County has their slash pile. They don't care who picks up mulch. So we can start with mulch as a capping product. It'll be a lot thicker than compost, so that will happen. We will need a loader for moving the material efficiently in a timely manner. We will need a skidster, which is there to help manage the feedstock processing area. They can load individuals that show up for compost and they want 1 yard in the back of their pickup. The grinder, that may come later. And the screener will have to happen pretty much right away too to have a finished product that's sellable. So I'm sorry but yes, we will have a loader, we will have a skidster, we will have the ASP system, we will get a temperature monitoring program.
I heard a couple comments about smell, or read a couple of comments about smell.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you have a temporary facility at this location before?
Not here. This was actually at our private residence on 7482. And we had neighbors, we had open door policy, come around, come walk the rows, I don't care when. And we also had, I think Mike Moore, is he
Yep.
still with Elbert County? He came out there with Greg Laudenschlager. This was back in 2020 when we started this whole thing. And I didn't receive any other complaints through the county. And the few neighbors that were open to walking it just commented it smelled like their barn. There was no foul, putrescent odors that were really wafting. I had my dad walk while we were turning the piles. We had 30 acres around it, to see where the perimeter was. Where could you smell it if we did have something that smelled a little off? Where could you catch it? Prevailing winds, things of that nature. We had a community meeting right at the end of the windrows, and there were no large comments about flies or smell. The whole thing for...
What time of the year was that?
it was in the summer, because we had it outside. It was in the evening. I don't know if we have that still on record, probably when that happened. The biggest thing for smells and attraction of flies is the odors, that anaerobic. They love that rotten decay smell. That's in their natural tendency to go towards it. That's a food source. Carbon is your weapon against smells. Nitrogen is what contains that ammonia building property that can create those odors. When you get the right mix, you can neutralize a lot of smelly loads that come in. So again, training operators, if they have a load that comes in and someone at that shed is on the radio like, hey, this sucker stinks, they know that they immediately need to get that covered with a carbon source and blended. You may have a 15, 20-minute time period where there may be some detectable odors. How far away, that just depends on the winds and which way it's traveling. But the sooner they get that mixed, they don't have to necessarily get it wet. They do have to know if the load is coming in super wet. And then they know they have to mix it with carbon, and then they know they're going to have to start that one right away into a new bay. We're hoping to plan for additional bays after those 8. I want to add 1 every year. That's our plan for growth. And to make sure we always have an open bay for a problem load. We have soggy years. The year we received 12 inches of rain. I got a lot of complaints, a lot of manure shifted properties. We get a lot of people in Elbert County that think they can dump it right in washouts and, seasonal flows. And people that weren't horse owners were paying me to move that manure. So again, that's part of helping support the horse community and education of what to do with this stuff. But then it comes in really wet. Then you have to act right away. You can't just pile that. And again, that's just going to come with training and getting them to look for the right indicators that will determine the actions they take.
I'm looking for the property associated with the fence. I see that there's a 4-wire on the outside property. Where's the containment fence that you're looking at? Is it strictly around the 8, or is it around the feedstock area and the 8 acres?
Well, that one, there was a referral. Yeah, there was.
7 feet, right?
We want it deer-proof, and to catch any debris that may fly. We never really had a lightweight trash issue with our temporary facility, like bags and paper that are generally associated with food waste that come from someone's house. People are really bad with contaminating something they even want to recycle or compost. The horse community, we just put the fear of God in them and said, we will charge you X amount more if I have to divert to a landfill, and we've had good training in that. But the fence,
take that requirement off of the containment area?
They never required a fence. I don't think CDPHE did. That was in Elbert County. They wanted the feedstock just fenced. To be honest, that's a pain in the butt. I would rather fence the whole property. I'm not going to create really large, complicated gates for things going in and out and loaders operating, and they're just going to probably destroy that fence, or someone from the public trying to back up a 20-yard dump trailer and wreck it. So we would end up putting that around the whole property. That, I guess in my mind, that one was still maybe up for debate. Or if that's something you guys feel like, hey, we really want to see the fence. If you don't think the native shrubbery would handle that issue, obviously you have time of growth, or if there's a standard of size of shrubbery or native plants that need to go around it. Personally, a gate across the fronts with the locked gate, that handles any illegal dumping. With the topography of the property, you can't really enter from anywhere else unless they're trespassing and cutting through other properties, or my neighbor wants to be ornery. I didn't like the idea of an 8-foot tall fence, but if it's something that we need to do, we're prepared to do that. We've priced the materials of it. It would be a 8-foot tall post with a high tensile strength kind of synthetic mesh that a deer could also see. So I'm not going out there untangling a dead buck. That would look really bad for the public. We didn't have any issues with migrating deer through our temporary facility, you know, bedding down, hanging out. We saw tracks maybe once in a while passing through. They didn't eat on any of the hay that was in the pile. They pretty much just moved on, passed through. This could be a little different. Obviously, I'm not fully aware of the animal patterns here, antelope, the mules, mule deer. You know, that's again something maybe we can put in, say, hey, you know, let's monitor this and set some dates for inspection. Or if we
We're going to be
feel like,
doing this on an annual basis, a review on an annual basis because of this, the nature of special use by review.
Mhm.
And so we can also add that as a condition as part of this conversation. Those were my questions. I think that's pretty much it. Anybody have any additional questions?
I had one, I guess, I wanted to ask. On the annual review of the SURs, is that mandatory? It has to be every year, or if we find year one, we make changes, we're good. Let's make these changes year two, we're good. No more changes, we go to 5-year review, 3-year review.
So SURs can be reviewed on an annual basis based on comments, public comments, or, you know, planning commission recommendation. We don't actively go out and re-review every SUR we have in the county. It's just done on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Understood.
Okay. With that, I'll consider a motion. Dust containment. You want to do a study first on dust containment?
I'd like to make a motion that the Planning Commission makes a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for case SUR 2023-1558 with the following stipulations. Number one, that there is a stipulation put in place regarding dust control for all of County Road 166 due to the traffic that will be created by the delivery of raw materials and the delivery of
Distribution.
distribution of the completed product. And number two, a review as necessary for fencing, for added security, and for the containment of any potential flying debris in the wind.
Also including all of the other requirements from the county.
And any additional security or any other additional fencing requirements by the county.
The 5 conditions.
Oh, the 5 conditions, right. The recommended approval conditions,
Including the recommended.
including the recommended approval conditions. Did that make sense?
Yeah, so the first was dust control on County Road 166 from delivery and distribution. The only how are we measuring the dust control, or because we can just act on the traffic letters, and they didn't have the concern about the dust. So I'm just trying to.
Yeah, because typically a traffic letter is only discussing the overall
impact on the road. Yeah.
The impact on the road, and not, I don't think I've ever seen, since I've been on the commission, anybody, any of the traffic studies, discuss
dust.
Discuss dust.
Yeah.
This one is, 166, and that amount of traffic, or that type of traffic, is going to, increase the dust, especially down at Kiowa Bennett and 166. So, like I said, I'm looking for a little bit of help here to make it appropriate and also fair, and that it can be adjudicated appropriately.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Well, in your wording, you said all of 166. So you're talking from Kiowa Bennett all the way, does it turn into Comanche Creek?
To Comanche Creek.
Okay, that's right.
But, obviously it would be I said all of 166. All of 166 that is impacted by this traffic. All right, hold on.
Sorry, that was very important.
I'm thinking the whole of 166.
I didn't know if it went all the way around to,
It goes to Comanche Creek.
And then the other side of it is, I want you to basically water 166 Singing Hills.
Oh, right.
To-
yeah, let's not. I'm not gonna water pavement.
All right.
I don't want all that water wasted either.
It will be a large quantity of water, so the well will be monitored, but
We need to do
it's,
some, but we need to be water.
Well, we either are doing it or not.
Yeah, you can do it.
I think we include it.
We need to include it, regardless. Oh, God, you guys. No, hold on. Dan's right. Dust control. No, understood, but, then it becomes, how do you adjudicate it? Is it based upon, a couple neighbors saying, guys, get after this? And being a good neighbor, and that's what you should do.
You could put I'm trying to think, if you put a wind speed, if you monitor wind speed and anything above 5 miles an hour, it's watering. I had one comment that, I don't know if it'd work, where you just water in front of impacted homes, not entire sections.
Well, and
of
that's,
area.
that's what Van was saying,
Yeah, no,
That's
we're open to
necessary.
doing something. I want to do something, but let's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to do mag chloride, though. That
No,
makes the
mag
roads slicker
chloride
than
kills.
snot.
Mag chloride kills trees.
Yeah, but it makes the grass grow on the edge of the road, and the deer love it.
Well, it makes it slick in the winter. It's just, I don't want to put my trucks in the ditch.
No, true.
I have to deal with that with El Paso County mag chlorine hills, and it's a nightmare. No, I think we can come up with something,
I have to write something that, makes sense for the team over there. Yeah. Probably do have to hold your breath with me. Holy crap. All right. So let's try this again. Make a motion for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation of approval for the Board of County Commissioners for case number SUR 2023-1558 with the following additional conditions. Number one, the recommended conditions already proposed by our planning department. Number two, to provide dust control as necessary based upon the conditions present for the section of road that would be impacted by the trucks delivering raw materials and also distributing the final product. And then number three, fencing as required by the county and as necessary for security and any potential flying debris.
Sounds good. Do you have a second? Let's go ahead and do a roll count vote. Roll count vote.
That was easy for you to say.
No, not really.
Yes.
I vote aye.
Yes?
Aye.
Aye.
So motion passed, all approved. And thank you for the presenters. Thank you for the presentation. Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, excellent. And for the second presentation, we will be doing Hughes Landscaping, another special use by review, and the case number is SU-2024-4260. For this application, the site location is 42600 Summit View Court, Parker, Colorado 80138. Site size is 35 acres. The zoning is agriculture, and this is a special use by review for the continued operation of a landscaping and sod business. The applicant representative is Grace Erickson for this case. Andy Osmus with the Osmus Law Firm was another applicant representative for this case. As you can see, this little yellow dot here, this property is on the border, near the border with Douglas County in northwest Elbert County. Here is a look at the zoning map. To the north, you have residential agriculture. To the south, you have residential agriculture 1. And to the east, you have residential agriculture 1 with a 6.3 acre property. To the west, you have an agricultural property with 2 residents and an outbuilding. Here is a look at the site, an aerial view. This is a 35 acre property, again, zoned agriculture with a sod and tree farm, greenhouses, an office, and a residence. There's no floodplain on the property. There is a small riverine wetland to the east of the residence that is seasonally wet. That's over in that treed area over on the right side of your screen. The existing zoning is agriculture, and it's an existing sod and tree business. Here's a look at the property, street view look at their office and parking lot. This, again, is for a landscaping and sod business. It's a compliance special use by review. The landscaping business has been in operation for 30 plus years, and the sod business has been operating since 2002. The number of employees varies greatly depending on the season, with about 65 employees during the peak season and about 12 during the off season. For this SUR, they have a lot of delivery and large delivery for their sod, but customers can also pick up materials on location. The tree farm and greenhouses are uses by right and not part of this application. Here's a look at the site as a whole. I'll give a zoomed in look. This special use by review features an office, a landscaping greenhouse, equipment storage areas, vehicle storage, a sod storage barn, and a gravel parking area. As you can see on the bottom, that's off the driveway. There's the office, equipment storage near the middle, and the greenhouse, pine and sod yard here near the north of the property. This project had a pre-application meeting back in March 30th of 2023, a community meeting shortly after on April 12th. The first review cycle for this was April 3rd to April 24th. After that, there were some minor revisions and building compliance review. The formal application was accepted on April 12th. And here we are today, January 7th, for the Planning Commission meeting. All noticing complied with Elbert County zoning regulations, 14-day advance notice with a posting in Ranch Land News, a quarter-mile radius mailing, and an on-site sign posting. All of these departments and agencies responded to our referral request, and all comments have been addressed. During the community meeting, there were 14 residents. Concerns included traffic, dust, and water usage. There were also several comments received in support, and since this application was posted with ranch land and sign posting and mailing, no additional public comments have been received. All right, so for our approval criteria, A, the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. Hughes Landscaping is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. The sod business and landscaping business in some capacity has existed for over 30 years. The special use by review will bring the business into compliance with county regulations and ensure that this commercial use is allowed into the future. Several neighbors stated their support for this business. The business fits well with the agricultural and residential mix in the area, providing trees and sod to the neighborhood, as well as the greater Denver metro area. B, no undue burden on infrastructure. So this use will not have an undue burden on infrastructure. Elbert County Public Works reviewed the application and had no objections. In addition, Kimley Horn reviewed the application and stated this is a low trip generator. The applicants provided a traffic study that states the estimated trips generated will not adversely impact traffic on local streets, as the business has existed for over 30 years in the current configuration. As traffic on Delbert Road increases in the future, the county may need to install turn lanes at subdivision entrances or improve the road design to maintain the level of service on Delbert Road. C, the use will not unduly increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. The Road and Bridge Department reviewed the application materials. Road and Bridge had no objections to this long-established business. There are no alterations to the right-of-way or changes to the use of this property being proposed. D, the use will not cause significant air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. The uses proposed are not believed to cause significant forms of pollution. The applicant understands the residential and agricultural nature of the area. During the community meeting, air, odor, water, noise, and light pollution were discussed with no concerns about pollution from the business arising. E, all sanitation requirements will be met. The Elbert County Public Health Department reviewed the application. The applicant provided up-to-date information on their on-site wastewater treatment systems. Inspection of both OWTS located on the property were completed on June 16th of 2023. No deficiencies were noted on the inspection. Both on-site wastewater treatment systems are functioning adequately, and documentation has been provided to Elbert County Public Health. F, the use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. The southern property line parallel to the access road is lined with trees. There are no new buildings proposed, and the neighborhood is familiar with this sod landscaping and tree farm land uses on the property. The north property line adjacent to the parking area is also lined with trees. There is also fencing surrounding the tree storage and some of the greenhouse areas. Additionally, the equipment storage area is located on the interior of the special use area. G, the use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This use will not be detrimental to Elbert County residents. Rattlesnake Fire Protection District has reviewed this application and determined that all requirements have been met. And finally, H, supplemental standards are met for specific uses. No supplemental standards apply to this application. Based on the review of the approval criteria and the findings in the staff report, staff recommends approval with conditions for the Hughes Landscaping SUR. Recommended conditions for this are the applicant will be required to remove the public hearing signs within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. 2, the SUR will not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the SUR exhibit is recorded. And 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of Board of County Commissioner approval. And that is a presentation for Hughes Landscaping Special Use by Review. Thank you.
Are you representing the applicant, please?
Good evening, Commissioners. Grace Erickson, Providence Consulting. Applicant representative and also present is Gary Longwell with Hughes Landscaping. Danny gave a thorough overview of our project relative to the SUR process. As Danny stated, this business has existed at its present location for quite some time, 35 years. It's a staple business in Elbert County, well respected by the community. What we're looking to do tonight is codify the existing use through a formal SUR process. We do not have any changes proposed, no improvements proposed with this SUR. We do believe it's compatible. Besides the fact that it's existed, there are other commercial businesses north and south of the subject property. It's also in close proximity to Delbert Road. That is all I have for my overview, but I'm happy to answer questions when appropriate.
Fantastic, thank you. And since we have lost the public, I'm assuming no public comment at this point, so fair enough. We'll go directly to the board-only discussion. Van, any questions? No questions. John? No questions. Robert?
No questions.
Dee Dee?
No, only why are they doing it now? Just to be compliant?
It's a long-term planning effort on behalf of my client. We want to have something formal in place.
Got it. So you chose the word commercial in your description, and that was kind of the question I was thinking about as I was going through this. Any farm is a commercial operation at any level, right? So I'm looking at this. So why is the sod farm part of this being considered as part of the SUR? Why isn't that permitted by right?
Do you want me to give background on
I looked at it, and it's not something that we would That may be it, right? But it's a sod farm, right? The piece that's not listed is the landscaping business.
I think the matter of customers coming and picking things up, maybe that was part of it. The delivery operations with the farming, I think some of that played into the reasoning for requiring the SUR. But Grace, if you'd like to give some further.
Truck farms have people coming and picking up stuff all the time. So why aren't we focused on just the landscaping piece? Why not strike maybe that'll be a condition, strike the sod farm as part of this SUR, because it is by definition farming in an agricultural area.
So the tree farming is in our.
I saw it was called off.
Yeah.
And why not the sod farm piece as well? Still not sure.
Yeah, as you know, Mark Dedner, Director of Community Economic Development, as you're aware, when we look at the land use table, there's certainly not a complete comprehensive list of, types of uses. So there are instances where we find ourselves like this, where it's not stated. So then, you have to evaluate it.
We do it by omission at some levels.
On some level, yeah.
And I was okay with that when I was thinking about the landscaping part of this. So can you describe, shifting gears a little bit, can you describe what the landscaping piece of this business is?
Yes.
And your gentleman is free to speak as well.
Landscaping. I'm the controller. I'm responsible for the daily operations for both the landscaping company and the sod company. So to describe the landscaping, sort of day-to-day operation.
Mm-hmm.
So we are a full-service maintenance landscaping company, as well as design, install, large project landscape company. So on a daily basis, we have crew that come to the facility, take their orders, their routes, whatever the responsibility for the day is.
Let me ask the question a little differently for you, so you don't have to spend a lot of time with this. Are you, the stuff that you grow, the sod that you grow, the trees that you grow, that's part of your landscaping? Do you get additional materials from outside of the facility itself?
We could have mulch delivered to the facility. But primarily we're purchasing from other material yards in Douglas County or Elbert County.
Okay, so if you're doing somebody's backyard with a rock garden, you're purchasing the rock from somewhere else. You're not pulling it off of that facility.
That is correct.
Basically going and getting it.
We're going to
sourcing it somewhere.
Someplace else.
Or having it delivered.
Or having it delivered from those other material lots.
All right, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay.
So I think we're at a point where we're notionally all agreed, but can we get a motion? And I'd like to include striking the sod farm as part of the special use by review, just including the landscaping business.
Vice Chair, can I give a little bit of background as to how this evolved with the sod? Sure. Just to make sure it's clear. We started this with previous staff quite a bit back. We had extensive conversations.
We always blame it on Mark anyways.
Yeah. No, it was before Mark. And we had extensive conversation because we were making that argument as well. And I think it's important that this be clear just in case, because the sod is not grown on site, it's shipped in. And that was the previous staff's argument as to why it did not qualify as agricultural.
Uncle, thank you. That helps a lot. So I'll entertain a motion without striking the sod piece. Please.
All right. I move that the Planning Commission make a recommendation of approval to the Board of County Commissioners for case SUR-2024-4260, subject to the following conditions as recommended in the staff report. Applicant shall be required to move the public hearing sign within 7 days of a decision by the Board of County Commissioners. The special use by, number 2, the special use by review shall not become effective until all fees are paid and conditions of approval are met and the exhibit is recorded. And number 3, recordation of all appropriate documentation to occur within 180 days of the Board of County Commissioners' approval.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Motion passed, all approved.
I'll make a motion, we go home.
Well, let's close the meeting.
I'm not going home.
So,
Was that an actual?
yeah, please.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
Second?
Second.
All approved?
Aye.
All opposed? Passed by 100%. Good job. Thanks, everybody.